Ride, Interplay, album review, let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Ride, absolute legends out of Oxford, Shoegaze legends as well. They've been at it for quite some time, and in the early 90s, they certainly fit in with the shoegaze scene with their 1990 classic debut album, Nowhere. Now, this is an album that means a lot to me. When I was growing up and getting into, a lot of shoegazy kind of stuff, I certainly loved my Loveless and my Savlaki, but Nowhere really always stuck out to me because of its sense of urgency and its sense of adventure as well. It's such a hard to place record, and it really does stand out as being one of the more experimental and genuinely weird moments in these albums. Their follow-up album, the band's consistency definitely dropped off a little. I mean, let's talk about the Carnival of Light project. Fans and critics alike did not really enjoy this record, even though to an extent the band has come around to it a little bit, but I've never been sold on it. I think that a lot of it is kind of soulless. And Tarantula, I mean, there's a couple of good tracks, certainly better than Carnival of Light, but I thought the band's mystique had really kind of fallen off by that point. And we wouldn't hear from the band for a whopping 21 years. Their Weather Diaries record, and honestly, I'm gonna be blunt, I thought critics and fans were a little hard on this record. No, this was not the perfect return to form. It was a little clumsy, a little awkward, and a little bit more indie than I think people really wanted to hear at the end of the day, but I do think that it has some genuinely great material there. And 2019's This Is Not a Safe Place, honestly, it was okay. I mean, tracks like Future Love and 15 Minutes I thought were really well done, but once again, the album seemed bloated to me, and on top of that, and more importantly, the electronic elements to this record and the production were so hit and miss. They were either really cool or just really should have just been left out entirely. Now, that leads us to this new project. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I had a lot of mixed feelings on this thing from a distance. On one hand, I really liked the singles, and not only that, but shoegaze seems to be having a little bit of a revival right now. But on the other hand, I've definitely been fooled with the last two albums of Ride to an extent. But I am here to say that this is actually a really nice return to form, and that makes me happy. This album starts off with Peace Sign. This was one of the first singles dropped from this album, came out early this year, and since then, I've actually really enjoyed it. It's energetic and punchy. It's definitely got a little bit of a throwback alternative rock edge to it, and that's certainly a good thing. Now, I will say this, some people might not be into the songwriting on this track because certainly a little cheesy, and it's definitely become even more cheesy to me more times I listen to it. But I'm able to look past that with just how much heart and passion the band is playing with right now. It's catchy as hell also, and not only that, but can we talk about the production? The band sound just sounds so in-depth here. I really do love Last Frontier as well. We got another punchy, energetic riff and just this wall of production that just sounds so good. Yeah, a lot of this album is actually some pretty quality stuff from the band. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say this is like that classic Ride sound and you need to hear it. No, I wouldn't say that. But for a modernized sound of the band, this really comes off pretty tasteful, I feel like. As a matter of fact, I feel like, at least for, the majority of their fans, if this album came out when Weather Diaries did, their reunion could have been a whole lot bigger. And this one may not have the punch and the urgency of Peace Sign, but it still just has that great energy and just this cohesive sound, and Ride just sounds so comfortable. This one just settles in on a groove and just rolls with it. I'm happy with what we are hearing. Monaco is just another really great single. As far as a single that dropped from this album goes, this is probably my favorite. It's punchy, it's energetic, it's got that wall of sound once again. Layers and layers of synths and guitars. Now, is this track a little straightforward? Maybe. But it's really memorable. I love that driving riff that we get here, and it's really catchy too. It's one of the better singles they put out in a while, and it's just so good to hear them getting back in this creative, adventurous mindset. Then we have I Came to See the Wreck. Amen to this, brother. I mean, God, this track and tracks in this vein are much more experimental and show the band really pushing themselves. The layers of synths and guitars, the immaculate pacing. This is not as easy to get into as some of the early cuts here. But it seems right where it should be. They honestly haven't sounded this comfortable with their sound in forever. And this track progresses so nicely with the swirling synths and the constantly shifting guitars and that repeated mantra of mind, body, and soul. And the repeated mantra of rage, body, and soul. It turns into a damn mantra by the end of this track. Oh, God, it's good. Now, there are a couple of eyebrow-raising moments that don't go as expected. Like Light in a Quiet Room. This one is a really, really tough one for me. It's one of the longer cuts here, over 6 minutes, and the first few minutes of it are honestly not that interesting, and that's upsetting to say because a lot of this album is very layered. There's a lot going on. And the pacing is fine. The drama to this track is actually really nice, but this very soft on the ears, very twinkling instrumental is just not what the doctor ordered for me. It's not interesting. And it's not done in like a subtle, cool shoegaze way either. Not even the vocals on this track are enough to interest me. And it's a shame because what this track builds to, the final 2 minutes, are actually really thrilling. And Stay Free, oh God, I tried. I tried really, really hard, but this is just not a track for me. This is so boring. This is beyond boring. This is the sleepiest cut here. It's also one of the least interesting rock tracks I've heard, God, in months. I mean, the songwriting so far, while not, absolutely perfect, has been fine. And then I hear this. I mean, if this instrumental was halfway interesting, I could maybe see it. But this track is just putting me to sleep. It's really rough to get through and the worst track here. And Yesterday Is Just a Song certainly isn't bad as a finale. It's kind of middle of the road. Vocal-wise, this is really meditative and definitely one of the more interesting experimental cuts here. Instrumentally, though, it does need to pick up, and it does in the final moment, and when we get there, it's actually really beautiful. I just wish this track just picked it up just a little bit. Outside of that, I mean, yeah, this isn't classic Ride, but I respect the hell out of this record, and I do really want to listen to it again. Like last night, I went Somewhere to Dream. I'm going to be honest, this track did take a little while to warm up to me. The crashing drums and the vocal harmonies and this constant rising tension, it's all done very well. It's spectacular, honestly, and the sound play here is some of the most impressive on this whole record. Not only that, it's really charming and sweet on the ears and easy to cozy up to. Sunrise Chaser, as far as a deep cut goes, look no further. The sound play here, the production, the color palette, it is all to die for. It's playful and sweet on the ears, but it's also super intricate and very adventurous. And it's not one of the more immediate cuts here. This one really takes some patience. But it's so gloriously textured that I'm glued from the word go. And the repeated lines of "We'll never fade away" are just some of the most memorable lyrics here. Midnight Rider I really love too. This track is a little bulkier and a little bouncy. This riff is definitely a little off kilter for the band, but I do really think it works well. It's colorful, it's got that sense of urgency to it, even though it's not the most, upbeat track here. But once again, it's the band's looseness and just feeling comfortable and their ability to push themselves this late in their career that I keep coming back to. And the end of this track is just absolutely intoxicating. Also, really love Portland Rocks. This track is just such a great release. It is so triumphant and so nice to hear the band back in an upbeat fashion. The vocals we get, some of the most passionate and anthemic ones here. It's just got such a huge sound to it. So many of these tracks have so much depth. And while from jammy, these instrumentals are often very easy to get lost in. And Essaouira is the longest cut here, well over 7 minutes. And let me tell you, it is a pensive boy and easily the most experimental cut here. The instrumental is super subtle, but it's this sort of cosmic instrumental, really interesting, and the vocal effects added over them are really, really tasteful. And Ride on this track really do stretch their rings. It's a lot to take in. But listen, this is a track you really need to sit with, and lyrically, it is one of the more far out cuts here as well. but it's breathtaking, especially in the final 2 minutes. I'm actually really pleased with this record overall. This is not the classic Ride sound, and I don't think that it should be advertised as such. There's nods to alternative rock and neo-psych. There's the classic shoegaze as well, but this is a sort of mature sound for the band, and to hear them getting this experimental, adventurous, and loose again this late into their career and just feeling adventurous again, it just makes me smile. And yeah, there's a couple of tracks that raise an eyebrow, but something about the sound of this record just not only takes me back, but just puts me in a good place, and I can't argue with that. I'm feeling a very light 8 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.